What's up, everybody? Back with another off-season interview. This time, I am joined by world distance record holder and now U.S. distance champion, Mr. David Wiggins. How you doing?
What's going on, Corey? Doing pretty good.
Oh man, San Francisco is treating me really well in the final couple weeks of the off season. It's the rain has broken. We've got our bag tag challenge coming up this weekend. I've been like throwing practice putts for the last 3 days. It feels like I'm in training for a whole different thing too. But listen, you're the reason for the season, man. You took down the distance championship out at USDGC. The video has just come out on the Disc Golf Pro Tour YouTube and over on DGN as well. How has this offseason been for you? Has that championship like changed anything? What's been your kind of experience of the last 2-3 months?
It's been awesome, and it's kind of like reliving it now that the video came out. But being able to come back in the sport and still throw with the best and come out on top felt really good. Definitely re-energized, some drive to go out there and throw and get out there and throw some big shots. So it was a really cool experience, and the amount of talent now versus 7 years ago is huge. There's a lot of guys that can bomb, and more so than that, just a lot more talented players on the scene. I hit some pro tour events. It's really incredible.
Yeah, let's kind of like dive back a little bit into early 2022. You're living in New Orleans. You've got your boat. You're Airbnb-ing a little bit, working on ships, and then a short, blonde-haired, long hair rolls into New Orleans and stays on your boat for a week. Talk about like that
Yeah.
experience. I came to your home and at least tried my best to expose the world to you, your story, and your disc golf journey. I guess talk about what it's been like since I came down there up till now, because it's been a little bit of a whirlwind journey for you, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy story, and I actually have to give you and Kevin credit for kind of being where I am back in the sport a little bit right now. It all started. Matty O sent me a message on Facebook and was like, "Hey, I got these two friends that shoot for the Disc Golf Pro Tour," and I'm like, "What does that even mean?" And he was like, "Yeah, they'd like to come and do a video with you for a kind of documentary series." And I was like, "You know what? What the heck? I don't have too much going on. I want to start playing again anyways, since I've heard the sport's been exploding, and y'all came into town, and it motivated me to go out and not make a fool of myself throwing on the course." So
No, it
no, it's
was
been great.
yeah, and it was a
And
really fun time, dude. Let me take it real quick because it was a really shocking experience for
yeah,
me. Like, I had seen you on, gosh, I want to say it was like 2015 Maple Hill Open, some of those early tournaments, and you were kind of like a staple of that era of disc golf, at least for me mentally, because there wasn't a ton of video of that era, and you were on some of the more famous ones. So getting back into the sport now, was it like a little bit of a learning curve? Was it like dipping your toes back in, or did you feel super comfortable just jumping right back into some of the biggest events?
I felt somewhat comfortable, but I'm also coming from the standpoint of playing these big events 7 years ago, and the professionalism has changed, the courses have changed, the level of competition has changed. So it was an eye opener, and I had trouble cashing at events, which is something that I never really had trouble with. I could
Yeah.
go out there and throw 1,000 rated round and still end up at the cash. If you want to play at the top, that's not even a possibility anymore. You'd be shooting 10-20s plus out of these big events to
No, very true.
contend to make some money. Yeah.
Yeah, very true. And one way that you were able to, find a little bit of a income, path of income here on tour, though, was doing the Double G and yourself, the distance clinics, showcases, all that good stuff around the country, and kind of tied in with the events. Me and Kevin came out to that one out in Michigan. It was super fun. You had honestly, an insanely large crowd relative to at least what I was expecting. A lot of people came out. What's that journey been like? Kind of pushing into almost being like the distance guy.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I was never one to do a lot of instructional type, events or videos. So this has kind of expanded my comfort zone a little bit this year. But we've gotten extremely positive feedback on all the events that we've done, and they're only getting better. And it's really cool because we give out a lot of good information, but a lot of the time people are just blown away when they see us throw, and it's cool to come see that in person. Even when I'm watching other big throwers throw, it's like, wow, you can really launch a disc that far, even when it's not coming out of my hand. Just seeing somebody else do it is incredible. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 at these events. You know, you get to see some crazy shots and you get to learn some, and it's something that we're hoping to grow and, you know, put on at a lot of these pro tour events and stops where we think we're going to have a good turnout and make it worthwhile for everyone.
No question. It's really like a spectator sport, or a spectator event, even with the distance throwing. You know, when I was in New Orleans, I had seen you throw huge shots like on video before, but until you actually see just like the raw athleticism that takes place during, you know, a 360 throw, and you're obviously one of the better 360 throwers, just clean, obviously very comfortable in the run up, and seeing you throw a 360 out at City Park was like, wow, this is not going to be the last time I'm going to see this. Like, I just already know it. Have you like gotten back into training for distance? Because I know that was one of your that was something that you did a lot as a youth, right? You trained for how far you could physically get the distance to throw. Have you been training for distance, or are you like hitting the practice basket putting right now?
I've been hitting the gym a lot and throwing some distance, and I haven't really been playing every single day, but I'm trying to, you know, stay sharp and focus on throwing distance. I'm also going to be hitting some pro tour events and other tournaments this year, but I'm not going to be touring full time. So I'm focusing more so on the distance and clinic aspect, but also still trying to do some competing this year. But
yeah, no question. I mean, 100%. And I think that's, frankly, it's a smart way to go. Like, if you can go out to a place, do a clinic, engage with the community, build your brand, make a set amount of money compared to like each, you know, missed putt costing you annual income. It's just a totally different world when you're traveling, I have to imagine.
It is. And the thing is, there's no halfway doing it. If you want to compete with the guys on tour, you've got to be out there at every event or practicing every day and putting an hour every day. And it's, you know, it's a full-time commitment, and there's no way around it now. The level of competition's there.
Yeah, no question. You know, let's maybe shift focus a little bit towards that United States Disc Golf Championship, distance championship, I guess. What was that? You know, you go out to USDGC, obviously a historic place to be, the Winthrop Arena, they call it now, Winthrop Gold in the past. What was that energy like out there actually at the showcase that afternoon?
It was insane. Ever since I was a little kid, going to the USDGC was one of my favorite events of the year, just to spectate. I used to try to do the Monday qualifying when I wasn't able to qualify as a kid. And the experience of getting to see the pros, it was like the pivotal event of disc golf, and still is, really. I mean, Winthrop Gold's iconic. But the competition this year, it was stepped up multiple levels. Ted and Coach Chris and Innova and everybody that helped out with that event really brought it to another level and made it more spectator friendly. It was more of a show and an event that people could come out and see what everybody can do with the disc in a competition format. In previous years, it had been more so come out during your time slot at some point during the day, get your throws in and see where it shakes out at the end of the day, and then you'll throw across the lake for a showcase. But this year we had a really good format with a qualifying and a finals, and it was it worked out really good.
Speaking of spectator friendly, though, just like the reaction that I've seen for the showcase and the production and the event as a whole, you know, both online, like on Reddit, Facebook, the social media sphere, and just like firsthand anecdotally with my friend group in group chat out here in San Francisco, it seems that people are really like loving just like being able to see pure distance shots really like for the first time. And one of the most impressive things and one of the coolest parts about it was Skyote or Skyote. I don't exactly know how he pronounces his name, but the FPV drone. Like, talk about throwing max distances with that drone buzzing right over your head. The shots were unreal. What was that experience like?
the skill and the speed of the drone that he flies is crazy. I mean, it's on the tail of the disc the entire way, coming out of our hands to the end of the flight.
Mm-hmm.
And these angles are something that we've never seen before. I mean, it's so cool to watch the full flight of the disc from that point of view. And it just adds another level of something cool for people to see. The content that was created from this event, the video that was produced, I mean, it's people are hungry for that. People have never got to see anything like that, really. I mean, you'll see a few distant shots here and there, but the production that Ted, Coach Chris Taylor, and everybody else that worked on it put together, I mean, we're at almost 200,000 views with it the first week. It's getting a lot of momentum for sure. Proving
Yeah.
that people want to see this.
I mean, I'm sorry, but if you're standing there, you're walking through a park and you see somebody throw a 360 like 600 feet. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your experience is with disc golf or throwing things. It's cool. Like, you're just gonna stop and watch.
It's like, whoa, how did it
Exactly.
go that far?
No, it's magic. Yeah. I mean, I say it all the time. Slight derailment here, but the fact that disc can go in two separate directions is what separates our flight versus almost any other sport or any other like activity, really. I mean, no other athletic device can bend two different directions in the same flight. So just that alone is like, awesome. I want to talk a little bit about like the rules and kind of how the event is set up, because from my understanding, out at Big D in the desert, where the like proper world record distance, like on the little lightweight bosses and all that stuff, there isn't necessarily an out of bounds marker, and you're kind of just throwing it in the direction of the wind and playing it off of that. Is that correct? And how does that differ in this format specifically?
Yeah, that's correct. Out there, you pretty much get to pick which direction you want to throw in, and there's no out of bounds. It's just from where you release the disc to where it hits the ground in any direction. The furthest point, that's your mark. Out here, it wasn't so much a kind of like they decided to make out of bounds. We had a tree line on either side of us that kind of, limited us to where we could throw. And if you hit a tree or another object, you kind of have to discount the throw. But it wouldn't even help it anyways. So we had a 200-foot fairway essentially that we had to throw down, and the tree line on either side was considered OB, where they marked a line on either side of it. So, which it was, you think 200 feet, that's a lot of real estate, which it is. It is a lot of real estate. But when you're considering the factor of wind and trying to work down the fairway at just the right angle, pushing across it from left to right, you could be finishing at the right edge of the fairway, even though you started that disc along the left edge of the tree line. And in some cases, I went over the left side tree line on ones that hyzered out. And, my ones that turned over did go into the right side tree line. But the better throws, for the most part, they were landing in the fair zone in the middle. Yeah.
So how does that, do you feel like that's a more proper way of doing a distance comp, or would you prefer it like, like eye up the wind, okay, we're throwing that direction? Like, where do you stand on that?
It definitely brings its own set of challenges when you can't pick which direction into the wind you're throwing, especially when it's shifting and everything. So I would say if you're just going for all out pure distance, it's nice to be in a field where you can have 360 degrees of freedom, that you can choose how you want that wind to aid your throw. We didn't have that luxury at this event, but we did have a good wind for the qualifying round, and it actually shifted almost into a straight cross, maybe a little bit of a slight head cross moving into the final round. But that's the exciting part when you only have 5 throws. You have to work with the elements that you're presented with and try to get off a good throw regardless.
Man, and speaking of which, you were able to pop one off 698 in that final round. I want to talk a little bit about your disc choice just in those final 5 throws. I noticed you went off the bat with a champion boss and then into 4 more flippy bosses after that. Could you talk about that mindset and the disc choice there?
Yeah, so I had a really overstable max weight champion boss that I was throwing first during both of those rounds, really just to try to read the wind and get one out there and hopefully have it flex out at the end, just to establish a pretty good mark. And then after that, I shifted into some bosses that were a little less overstable that I could get higher and to pan out and really glide at the end. And in that finals round, I did get the champion boss out there over 600 to a pretty good mark. So I was ready to open up after that. And then I turned over a couple, and then I actually switched to an even lighter boss, 172. And that was the 698 that really, it got high and it panned out, and it really didn't get a big push from the wind, but it was a good flight.
So in this format, it really comes down to when you throw your long shot, because with the multiple rounds, only 2 rounds, but still, we saw Albert really, like, if this was the Big D in the desert, he would have won that event, right? Because he had technically the longest throw of the entire thing, but because it was in the qualifying round, he was not able to win. How do you, I mean, obviously I have a suspicion, I know where you stand on that, but where do you fall on, like, do you feel like this is the best format to determine the distance winner, or should the net longest throw, regardless of when it was, win?
That's a tricky question, it's hard to answer because he definitely, hands down, had the furthest throw of the day. But when you're throwing in different conditions, say somebody's throwing at 10 in the morning and somebody's throwing at 12 and the wind is shifted, you want everybody to have a chance at qualifying. And then you want similar conditions for the top throwers in that final round, which is why it was formatted like that. Because with only 6 throwers, you're pretty much thrown in a pretty similar, weather condition window within, 20, 30 minutes of each other. So, yeah, that was an absolute smash. And it just depends on the competition, really. I mean, Worlds, you get 5 throws, and it could be at any part of the day. And there's a lot of luck involved with the conditions when you throw too. So, but yeah, hats off to him for that throw on like a golf round too. That was pretty impressive.
I know. And so then, kind of like my last question on the differences between the different players and all that stuff is, discs. Each player is allowed to throw any, I would imagine, any disc. I don't actually know the specific hard rules, but do you think that there should be a standard disc thrown for these distance? Should it be, sponsor's choice? Should you be able to have 5 different molds and work certain things depending on how your throws? Like, what would you prefer the specific rules on discs be?
Each player has their own, style and form, and I think they should be able to pick whatever they want to throw and whatever they think is going to fly the furthest. So,
I guess it's part of the game, right? I mean, part of the gamesmanship is knowing which discs respond to, certain throws and certain wins. Did you have a stack that you were deciding between and you ended up going with that set of 5 bosses? Or is that just standard? You're taking that to every distance comp?
I've got a whole bag of about 25 bosses I've ran in a bag that I only throw in open fields that I don't want to change. I don't want to hit trees with them. And depending on the wind conditions, I'll select, a handful of those. And in this competition, I had all of them out there and was able to, select the bosses that I wanted for the wind conditions.
I love it. It's like a big bag of blue bosses.
Yeah, good to have a big bag of tools.
Yeah, no question, no question. So let's switch a little bit to what's coming up. 2023, a huge season for everyone, whether you're prepping to go play every single event on the Pro Tour or, like me, getting all my ducks in a row so that I can start my productions, here out in Tucson in about 2 weeks now. Don't remind me. What are your plans? Are you you said that you're gonna hit a few Pro Tour events, but should we expect you at many events? What's your plans for 2023?
Well, my first stop's going to be Vegas. I'll definitely be there. I haven't quite nailed down the rest of the tour or the events that I'm hitting for the rest of the year, but that'll be coming here in the next few weeks. Aside from that, I'm working to try to see how fast I can throw. So I'm working out, playing with the radar gun, and I'm going to try to set a mark, see how fast it can fly.
So are we talking like Guinness Book of World Records, like fastest disc ever thrown? Like how high does a record like that go? Like,
I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
We'll figure it out when we get there, I guess, right?
Yeah. The distance world record really isn't a Guinness World Record. It's just with the World Flying Disc Association, WIPDIF.
Hmm.
So we'll see. I mean, I'm sure it's possible, but I gotta put the work in first and see
Well,
where it
what's
shakes
do
out.
do
Yeah.
we know what's our mark right now? Like, do we know what the speed record is, and do we know what you're like gunning for?
I know my personal best right now that I've had on radar is 84, and I'm not sure what the fastest recorded throw is, or if there is an official mark right now. But it's going to be something fun to play with. See how
Yeah.
fast we can get a distance fly.
No question. I know. I remember specifically Eagle got over 80 with a backhand on a Central Coast video, and I know Ryan Sheldon got over 80 on a sidearm at the Preserve a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So those are the two marks. Obviously, it's not some like official whiff diff thing. It's just like our friend Renee holding a gun right behind him. But like those are at least mentally my marks that I want to see big numbers get pushed by. But dude, I'm stoked. Like I can't wait. I mean, I guess in theory this could be like a paired up event with the distance going forward. Is that kind of like the theory that you would maybe have like a speed showcase as well?
Um, Possibly. It's certainly easier to do with a net. It's
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
limited, with fields and everything like that.
Uh-huh.
Um, I was actually talking to Thomas Gilbert at one of the Pro Tour events, and he told me in Europe there was a distance competition, and the way you qualified was speed.
Really?
So they were able to record, with a radar gun the speed, and they could also do the spin at this event, which was pretty cool. Something we're still learning about.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was the fastest throwers that got to qualify, and then they threw in a field setting, and it was interesting because it wasn't always the fastest thrower that threw the furthest, but
Yeah.
add in the flight of the disc and the conditions and everything like that starts changing everything up.
Interesting little curveball though on the format. Could be interesting. I guess if you're throwing distance, you're likely gonna set the you're likely gonna get a good read on speed. So I guess we wouldn't necessarily have to do two separate showcases. But no, I just like this whole thing evolving has been so fun to watch. Like Double G obviously for a couple years was like that distance guy on tour, but seeing everyone like market it
Still
and
is.
put it all together. He is. No, he is. Well, hey, I
Still
mean.
is.
Shoot, dude, with AB out there, with Adam Hammis shocking the world with how
Yeah,
far he
that
was
was a
throwing, I
match.
think.
Yeah.
Like, he's got some competition. I mean, listen, I love Double G, respect. He was not in the finals, though, okay? That's all I'm saying, G. That's all I'm saying. But no, it's going to be fun to watch you guys crush, honestly, all year round. I'm sure I'm going to be out at least a couple of them shooting some content for you guys. So super excited to see that. That's about all I have for this interview, though, David. I wanted to give you a chance to say anything you wanted to the fans at home, anybody out there, like, rooting for David Wiggins.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody that's come out and supported these clinic events and distance instructionals. And if you haven't watched it, go watch that United States Distance Championship video. It's really cool. The live metrics and stats that they're posting with the speeds and the flyover coverage from Scoyote it's really cool, and it's a really good production. Aside from that, follow me on Instagram, and I've got a commemorative boss for the U.S. Championships coming out with a cool design on it here soon. So be on the lookout for that. I'll be posting it on my website. Yeah.
Nice, dude. Love to see it. Honestly, can't wait to. Honestly, I'll probably end up getting my hands on one of those distance bosses, I'm sure. But I have posted his Instagram handle down below his face, kind of this whole interview. So make sure to give him a follow on all his socials. That's all I have for this interview. If you at home would like coverage of all things disc golf, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel.